I am terrified of you
Where are
sneaking
you?
up. Oh God.
Just lay your weapons down and walk away.
That's never gonna work again.
No.
This time, oh boy. Oh, but so the suggestion thing, the level idea thing. All it does is it grabs a random item from each list. In some cases, it grabs like multiple items, or it randomly decides that it doesn't want any items from a list. Alright, so... Oh! Wow! I feel like I got super lucky on that one. I guess just throw Luigi at that last jump like 4 or 5 times and he eventually gets it. Oh! First clear on a Peth level. Camp Horizon. I love this stage. Alright, Mario Maker 4.0 update. All stages are replaced with this one. Yeah, this is basically hold right. Right here. Hold right, hold jump, and you got it. Huh. Don't even need the power-ups. You can just damage boost. Alright, cool. We got it. We got our sub 30. 27 and change. Fantastic level, Mario Maker fan. Probably one of my favorite levels of yours so far. Hey! Kip with the 2 months. Thanks, buddy. Just lick it. Just plunk it. I'm scared. Oh, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, okay, okay, whoa, hey, buddy, whoa, hey, oh, all right. That was a good dodge right there at the end, wasn't it? You know, it's funny you should ask. Hello. How's everybody doing tonight? We're back at it again. With the game development. For funsies. So. Where did we leave off? I'm looking at this and I'm trying to remember what in the world we were doing. Okay, we got weapon switching. Yeah, we got weapon switching, so we can have multiple types of weapons available. That one doesn't do any damage. That's a jetpack. Looks just like a jetpack. I would be just as happy to just not know. Oh, that's something I didn't think about. You can shoot through platforms. Oh, yeah, because we make it... Oh, okay, that's an issue. Because I made it so that the pellets spawn at the edge of the player. And so technically they spawn, like, below the platform. That's not good. I'm wondering if maybe this blue circle will contain the dog. Maybe the dog is the one that's on the moon, rovering around. He is the moon rover. Oh, green slushy, thank you. $10 going to Camp Horizon right off the bat. All right, one thing I need to do is make it so that scroll wheel is not an issue. Because right now when I do scroll wheel, I scroll the screen. We don't want that, if we can help it. Actually, that's a pretty easy one, I think. I think we just do... where do we do the overflow? Overflow, why none? Right? Is that it? Is that all we need? Nope. Oh, what if I also do height 100%? Does that do it? No. Okay, well that's not it. I am pretty close to there. I'm out of the mental fog and I'm feeling pretty sharp again. This is the content that is needing to be scrolled. Don't like this. There we go. Okay, so anyway, this is the content. It's the... No, hang on. I could just say... What if I just said, like, position fixed? Would that... Well, I mean, that kind of fixes the issue. But not really. Maybe that's just something we can deal with later. Features for today. What do we actually want to do here? I think what I want to do... One thing I want to do is change this so that we have a scrollable screen. Like right now, we have a fixed area and the game takes place entirely within this region. And there's just no going outside of this region. I would like to be able to move to off-screen areas and the camera to follow the player, which allows us to create larger expanses and as a result, kind of a more interesting area. Let's see, what else? What else? Maybe the ability to zoom the camera in and out would also be handy to have for that, but it will make it a little bit more complex. But it would be nice. So let's look at this here. First, before I get into anything, this fire here where we've put the pellet down. Yeah, fire bullet function. Fire bullet is placing it on the border of the player, and that's apparently a bad thing because it lets us shoot through the ground. Didn't think about that. So let's see here. So it puts it at XY. So let's just put it at... Yeah, let's just throw it at the dead center of the player. Why not? That'll be fine. And if we draw things in the right order, then we can just hide the pellet behind the player sprite and not even have to worry about it looking weird, like it's coming out of the center of the player. All right, so that'll fix this whole shooting through the ground issue. So let's get onto this whole camera business. We're gonna have a new class, camera.js. So what is the camera gonna do in this case? What is the camera class gonna do? Let's see here. It's gonna have an XY position. And that's gonna count as, I guess, the center of the camera. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Is that... And then we'll have some functions to like move it around every frame, like some kind of update position or update zoom. Also, it needs a zoom value because I want to be able to zoom out. By default, let's put that below the constructor. I don't know what the like normal... Like, I don't do classes in JavaScript very often. Yeah, so we've got our main gameplay loop, which fires once per frame. And what it does is it iterates over every sprite, and it runs that sprite's update logic. And then it iterates over every sprite and does its draw call. And then maybe right before we do the drawing, what we want to do is we want to run a camera update function that says, hey, based on the current player position and all this other game state, what do we want to do with the camera? So there are some games that, let's see, what's some good examples of this? Feel free to throw out examples of different types of camera control on 2D side-scrollers. The basic, like most straightforward for actual side-scrolling is the camera is dead centered on the player. No matter what the player does, the player is smack dab in the middle of the screen all the time. Mario is not like that. The original Mario is not like that. Because it doesn't let you scroll backwards, and it doesn't scroll up and down at all. Actually, most NES games would only scroll one direction or another. It would only be horizontal scrolling or vertical scrolling, not both. SMB3 is a weird counterexample, so that one doesn't count. But for the most part, NES games would just do that. Next game should be a cookie clicker variant. Oh gosh, you could just smack Navi with something. Doesn't matter what the game is about as long as some point in the game you get to smack Navi. So Donkey Kong Country had what I kind of call it like a lazy camera. The camera doesn't follow exactly where the player is. It kind of like, it has a target point, but the camera has to like catch up a little bit. So it kind of smooths the movement a bit. When the player stops moving, the camera like catches up, sort of. Typically in platformer games, you want to, what am I going to say? In platformer games, you want to give the player as much room to see what they're about to do as possible. So, for instance, I feel like later side-scroller Marios were better about this, where, oh yeah, fixed height, fixed speed auto-scroll is nice. Later Mario side-scrollers were really good about this, where when Mario is moving to the right, the camera pans over to the right, I think I'm remembering this right, so that you have more visibility on what's ahead of you, because you don't care about what's behind you as much. Hey, Germ. I'm gonna say about 80% there. For the most part, I'm good. I just gotta get a little bit more of my strength back, and then some other things need to clear up, and I'll be all set. Thank you, buddy. I'll be right as rain in time for the tournament, which it looks like we're down to 8 entrants. It looks like that got finalized. I don't know if the position of the brackets is final, but we'll see. If so, then we might be meeting up against each other in the quarterfinals. What were we talking about? Mario camera. Yeah, Mario, you want him to be kind of at the lower left of the screen so that you can see the stuff above and to the right of you. Except on some levels where there's more vertical movement, then Mario kind of, needs to see below as well. That's not probably what we want to do on this game. On this game, we probably want to keep the player dead center all the time. Because the player's movement is based on where we click in relation to the player, right? When is the tournament? That's a great question. Let me look up the challenge. Let's see here. Tournament. Signups. Okay, yeah, signups are passed. Once signups have closed, participants schedule the group matches for the first 3 days of SG Live. So starting November 10th. Well, they were talking about changing the schedule a little bit, but maybe in about a week we'll have tournament stuff. How many enemy types do we end up with? 2. There's going to be a lot more. Don't worry. We got to get the engine straightened out first. And then we'll be looking pretty good. Here's an idea I had. A crazy, goofy idea. Which we could do. This would be less game development and more app development. But what we could do is actually build a web page that lets you guys try out coding an enemy. Like have the basic game engine on a web page and like a blank slate of like, hey, here's a little sample enemy, add your own logic here, make it do what you want it to do. And then just let people try out like, okay, I want my enemy to, you know, go up and down on walls and shoot bullets at the player, that kind of thing. You're gonna need to take time off to be able to play. Yeah, that would suck. JavaScript is terrifying. No, JavaScript is fun because you can do things like that. Where I just say, here, throw in whatever code you want, and if you break your browser, that's on you. If you crash the web page, make it pop up alerts, then that's your own doing. Crazy intimidating. All right, that's better. That's better. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it sounds like they want to let us schedule our own matches. Oh crap! Did it? Where's my ticker? There it is. Why you gotta do that? Oh right, because I have to have part of it visible, or else it's gonna do that. Website idea is kind of cool. I did something like that a long time ago. Like I was building out like a JSON editor for a top-down dungeon crawler, where my idea was build an app where people can go and like design their own weapons and items in the game and test them out and then submit them to be added to the game. And then I don't have to do any coding for content. People, like I had an image editor, like a full app art station where you could like, you know, draw your lines, your polygons, your different shapes and pick colors and animate it and all that. Maybe I didn't get to the animation phase, but that was an easy step to take. But I really like the idea of I build the engine and then I let everyone else build the content. Because that's where I run into the project fatigue is I like building out the engine stuff and all the cool things that enemies can do. And then it's like, okay, now I have to actually build 50 different kinds of enemies and weapons and items and all that stuff. So, yeah. And occasionally I would enlist people to help out with art and ideas, but then still having to put it all together was a pain. And so I love the idea of a website that would do all that for me. Like, it would let you guys upload the art, animate it, and then maybe even do the coding, and then it packages it up in a file that you can send me, and then I can just like upload file, and then boom, there's the enemy class all set up. That's what casual is for. That's right. Alert, oops. Perfect. Germ Dove, your loop will go 0 times as far as I can tell. Oh wait, no, never mind, you're good. You're going... You don't see decrementing loops very often in practice. That's right, Day. You got us on the art side. The way that this is working out, we could possibly do some kind of like art pack kind of thing where you could like swap out the assets very easily. Anyway, we're doing a camera. And I think what we've landed on is that the player is always going to be dead center. So the whole idea of a camera class doesn't make a lot of sense. Not 0. Yes, the opposite of 0. All. So I think instead what we probably want to do is... Now zooming in and out might still be valid. So instead of this being the camera class, we're going to make this the renderer. And it's not going to need a location. It just needs a zoom, I believe. And it needs to have a target. That's what it needs. So it's going to have a target sprite, which is going to be whatever it's going to focus on. The idea being that typically it's going to be focused on the player, and the player is going to be dead center all the time. So what we're going to do is we need to make a, let's see, a renderer class added to here so that we actually pull it in. And then in our main code, after we generate the player, we're going to generate the renderer. And tell it, hey, follow the player. Now, when we are drawing things, which we've got a lot of things that we draw right now, what kind of things do we do? A single line again. What else? Draw a rectangle. Where are we drawing a rectangle? Oh, a border. Okay, we are doing a border. Text apparently is needed. Actually, text is fine where it is, because that's for the UI. So it looks like it's just borders and the sprite itself, which is drawing a line and drawing a circle. So we're going to make some rendering classes for drawing a line. How are we going to do this? What is the best way to do this? It'll be renderer.line. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. And that's pretty much just going to do what the border is already doing, which is this mess right here. We're going to assume we know what the CTX is. That's a global right now. We might change that later. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Basically what we're doing here is we're wrapping the draw methods. At some point we will need a splash screen to enter the game. Yes. Yeah, we'll need an instructions, controls, options for turning audio on and off. What's the story? You know what? That's a great question. I don't think anybody knows yet. Day is writing our story. Excellent. Day knows what the story is. Okay, so, we can actually have some helper methods in here. It's a blank Google Doc. Oh, well. That's about what I was expecting the story to be, in all honesty. I don't know if this is gonna be great, honestly, but we're just gonna keep building until we get to some point that seems decent, and then we're gonna take a step back and see what happens. Oh. Let's see. Can we get that on? Well, she stopped. She's just sitting there. She knew that she was getting on camera there and decided to stop. She is precious, precious baby girl. Probably dreaming of squirrels. Vertical line, horizontal line. All right, so now we can say, instead of doing all of this drawing stuff, we can say renderer dot horizontal line, no, vertical line at this dot x. And then we can get rid of all of this mess. And then likewise for horizontal line, right like that. So that's less. And then platform is renderer dot line of x1, y, x2, y, which is not as pretty, but it works. All right, so that's the border code right there. And then we've got circle. Right now we haven't added in the whole camera offset thing, but we're getting there. So which needs an X, a Y, and an R. And that's it. That's pretty much it. We're also assuming that all these things have the same line width, which probably isn't a great assumption at this point, but it'll work for now. So where's our main sprite drawing method? Right here. Take out this color. It's just this part that we want. We tell it the X, the Y, the R, and it draws a circle. Simple as that. And also we are going to take line width into account, which looks like that is typically 4. So we're going to do that before each of these calls. It'll make sense later. Okay, and then get rid of the sprite drawing method. Replace that with renderer.circle at this dot x, this dot y, this dot radius. There you go. Now, so right now if we run it, everything should still work the same. Okay, that looks fine. Everything's still the same. Perfect. But now we want the camera to follow the player. So we're gonna do a little offset thing. And I gotta keep my minuses and pluses straight here. We are interested in this dot target. So, how are we gonna do this? Do we wanna have like a translate function? Maybe some helper functions to like, here's how you change X, here's how you change Y, here's how you change a scalar like R. That might be the way to go. Just a little helper function of, I don't know if this is the best way to do this. It's not super clean. We got a lot of variables though that we're moving around here. Is my main thing. Actually, I guess it's just this X, Y, this X, this X, this Y, this Y, and this R. So 7 variables. I guess that's not terrible. And mostly I just don't want to be repeating logic. So let's call this map X. We're going to map the X value to a new X value. And so our X value, let's say right here we are looking at X is, let's say this is 150 is our player's value. So we're saying that in actuality we want to draw X150 at, well, the dead center of the screen. We want the player to be drawn at the dead center of the screen. So how do we make that happen? Well, let's see, our center point is canvas.width over 2. So we want to take that center value. If x is 0, all right, let's do some scratch work here. If our pass-in variable x equals 0, then the variable we spit out is going to be about 150 pixels left of center. So in that case, we would return center minus player.x. And if our value we pass in is, say, 200, I'm just throwing some examples out there so we can kind of find the regression line, find what we're looking for. Then we want to return center plus 50, 50 being 200 minus 150, or x minus player.x. Is this our formula right here? If I pass 0 into that, player.x is... Yeah, that works. That works. That's our function right there. So we're going to return center plus x minus our target values x. And then we can do likewise for y. Except with height. And then finally, we can do... We're going to call this r. It's really just a scalar value. Which right now is just going to... This is specifically for the zoom logic that we're going to add. Sometimes we're going to need to map the radius, which right now we're just returning the radius back because the camera's position doesn't affect the radius. Now we can replace this with a call to mapping x. This is going to get really ugly for a second. There we go. There's our circle function. And there's our line function in progress, almost. There we go. That's it. Let's see if that actually does any good. Let's bring this up. Oh, hey, oh, do we have that? We do. With one exception, our inputs of the whatchamacallit. What do you call it? Mouse inputs. They're not mapping. We haven't mapped those yet. So right now, if I want to shoot upright from here, I have to shoot way over here. If I shoot directly above me, it's actually gonna do that. Because it thinks I'm aiming towards the top center of the play area, not the camera. But good news is that we're close there. We've at least got a scrolling camera that honestly seems to be pretty nice. The big thing is the player stays dead center, so it's very easy. You don't have to watch the player. You can basically just focus on everything around you, knowing that the player is always at the center. Yeah, I think that works great. These lines do not extend out infinitely, which is a slight issue that we want to address. All right, so let's zoom back out. Not on that one, on this one. There we go. Zoom back out a bit. So let's see. Good start, good start. Horizontal line. Doesn't need to go from 0 because that's game coordinate 0, not canvas coordinate 0. Possible solution. Ugly solution, we could just put negative infinity in there. Actually, would that work? That is an actual No. That is an actual JavaScript number. Like, you can actually type out the word infinity, and that does actually, it will run math on that. But apparently, Canvas does not accept that as a kosher statement. So that one we cannot get away with. So what would be a better way to do this, then? Oh, excellent. I mean, we could just put an arbitrarily large value and just assume we'll never hit that. On my way to the moon. We're not gonna like bother talking about like why, like how this dog managed to get to the moon. There we go. Okay, now we have vaguely infinite lines for these massive walls. Which again, that's pretty much placeholder stuff, but we're gonna just be fine with it for now. Yeah, the dog just can get to the moon. Just accept it. What next? Do we want to handle mouse input? We probably want to handle mouse input pretty soon. Ah, by word, yeah, naturally. Let's see here. We know the mouse X and mouse Y. Where all do we reference that? Just on weapon firing. Interesting. Only right here. So what happens if I map this X value? Actually, that's a terrible idea. We need a smoother... Okay, the mouse needs to be able to be grabbed from here. So let's say get game coordinate, level coordinate, get game mouse X. Is that the way we want to phrase that? Oh no, we don't need a fully developed story arc. That's the beauty of it. Go with retro story of like the little smooth paper instruction insert with all the fun art, and then a big notes section at the end for writing notes. Yeah, let's just put it here. And is this gonna be the inverse of... I think this might be the inverse of our rendering function. Our rendering function takes a game coordinate and spits out a screen coordinate. We need a function that can do the opposite, so we're gonna need to unmap X, which is basically going to do the opposite of this. This also gives us an option of a win condition if we... That's true. Or if we got to decide if it's going to be arcade style or have an actual ending. I guess if we get like boss fights in place, that we could have an actual ending. Maybe have multiple modes, an arcade mode and a non-arcade mode. So let's see here. This is the easy way to do this. We're after this result here, the old X value story mode. So let's see. So if we subtract center from both sides and add this dot target X to both sides, then that will give us results that we are after. There's our unmap x function, and there's our unmap y function. And now on our mouse, get game mouse, it's just gonna call that unmap x function on mouse x. And then likewise for y. This seems like a lot of excess, like, you know, what does this function do? This function is just calling another function. What's the point of that? A lot of it is a lot to do with having the logic in more logical places where possible. The bar for believability is very low, yes. So let's see here. We want to get game mouse x. So rather than reference this global variable of mouse x, mouse y, we're now calling a function that knows where to find that data. All right, so let's see if that fixes our... Whoops. Hello, where am I? Where am I? I am at not a number. Okay, that does make sense, huh? All right, well, let's just call get game mouse x and see what gets returned. Undefined. Oh, because there's no mouse x. That makes sense. All right, well, here's an old... Oh, you know what? You know what we forgot to do? We didn't actually return the value. We just calculated it. Oh, are we working? Is it... It's aiming. I think this is aiming where we expect it to. Oh, that's nice. Still don't like that I'm scrolling. Yeah, that works. And it shoots in a place that I would not be surprised for it to shoot. All right, I think we're on to something here. All right, that's some good stuff right there. We have working movement, working camera. Next up, zoom, which is going to get a little bit goofy, and we may not even use it, but it's a good exercise. Okay, hang on just a second. All right, let's zoom. Let's learn how to make things zoom. All right, so here we've got our 5 functions. These are the only things we need to touch to make zooming happen. Well, you know, we're also gonna have to actually control this zoom variable. Let's set it to 0.5 as a fun start. Right now, that's gonna do nothing. So, what does it mean when we are going to... We have a game coordinate of, let's say, 0, the far left-hand side of the screen right now. Which right now is returning a mapped coordinate of 0. Very, very easy to do some math on that. Oops, I died. Wait, what? Oh, oops. When I died, the player sprite is gone, and you know what the camera was attached to? The player sprite. So that worked great. I didn't think about that. Yeah, right here, we're grabbing a new player sprite. So we need to make sure that our renderer dot target gets updated. That's a little ugly, but it'll work for now. All right, so anyway, as I was saying, let's say that our player is in the dead center of the screen. If I zoom out to 0.5, what that's gonna do is my left-hand side of the screen is now gonna be halfway towards the middle of the screen. So from that, we can kind of understand what's going on here. Our x value is the same as it always was, or x value is the same, center is the same value. So in this case, our center value is, let's say that's 500, is half our canvas width. And our target x is, oh gosh, I gotta think about this. Target x is still 500, and our x is 0, but now our x is no longer, now what we want to actually return is like 250. So what's getting multiplied by 0.5? Something certainly is. Let's just multiply this by zoom and see what happens. Let's see what that does. Nope. That doesn't seem right. I mean, it's definitely showing 50%, but it's 50% in the wrong direction. So I don't like that. Is it maybe this? This is the test, the guess and test strategy. Oh, actually, that might have been it. I think we got it. There we go. Second try's the charm. All right, yeah, that works. So it's everything except for the... Ooh, that's gonna change our unmap function by quite a bit. But hey, look at that. We have zooming. After you achieve a particular kill count, maybe the end condition spawns, you just have to collect it. Perhaps something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure if we want to do anything like, oh, it's a part of the level position you got to get to, or it's like, okay, you have to hunt down a certain number of enemies or survive a certain amount of time. Depends on what kind of gameplay we're trying to encourage. I don't know if chasing things around is going to be fun. If the goal is like to get to the end of an area, then I feel like that makes it less fun. Because then you are not encouraged to destroy the enemies. You're encouraged to avoid them as much as possible. It could do something like a go through an area, survive to kill a set number of enemies. Yeah, maybe like you have a starting point. You basically have free reign to either dodge or farm up resources. You get to a certain area and it kind of is a like screen lock, survive, kill all the enemies, and then proceed. Like walking into one of those rooms in Zelda where the door slams behind you and you're stuck until you've cleared out all the enemies. And then you get a big reward for those, and then you keep proceeding through the area. Maybe something like that. Okay, how do we unmap our zoom function here? I think what we need to do is the same thing as last time. Basically take our function and say x equals this, and then there's our target result right here. And then just run the math on that, which is divide by zoom. Oh wait, no, that doesn't work. We have to subtract center first. Then we can divide by this dot zoom quantity. This is just slow algebra is all it is. And then add this dot target. Dot x. Okay, there we go. There's our updated function. Pretty close to the original, but with a little bit of divide by zoom thrown in. So let's see if that works now. Yep. We're shooting where we expect to shoot. Perfect. Seems complicated? Possibly. I mean, locking the room would not be hard because we've already got these magical borders that we can just slam down in place. And if it becomes like a one-screen room, we could even force the force the screen to like center in on the middle of it by having like a little hidden target that it centers in on. Like that's built into the renderer code now, is we just tell it, hey, target this thing, and it will target it. Okay, zooming is something I feel like would be okay to kind of slowly do. Like, the screen can slowly zoom in and out instead of just immediately switching. Because right now, if I modify the zoom value and set it to 2, boom, suddenly, bam, we're zoomed in. It does not exactly have to be that way. Is centroid a stored value of the canvas? Wait, what? Centroid, like the center of the... Or are you asking about a certain variable that we set up here? Instead of having to calculate it every time. I don't think you can... I think you have to request that. Or calculate that. Which isn't hard, but annoying. All right. Let's look at this line width business here. We've been setting line width to 4 before we draw anything. If we're zoomed out, that line width needs to be smaller. So let's multiply that by this dot zoom. Boom, done. Hey, there we go. Now we keep our proportions. Yeah, big thick lines when you zoom in, thin lines when you zoom out. In Spatial Python, centroid is a stored value of any enclosed feature. I don't believe so. The canvas object has a lot of... Well, let's see here. We're more interested in the rendering context. Right here. You guys probably can't see this. There we go. Luckily, in JavaScript, with the console open, you can pick apart everything very easily. So here's a fun thing. There's 2 different main variables we're interested in: the canvas and the rendering context. So canvas is the HTML object on the page. I guess technically it doesn't have to be on the page when we use it, but I've never not had it on the page, so maybe it does. I don't know. So the canvas has things like the height and width, and like this element's position on the web page. And then the rendering context is purely the, hey, I want to throw pixels on this thing. I want to throw pixels into that canvas. Funnily enough, the rendering context does not itself contain the height and width of the canvas itself. So this distance here from far left to far right, the rendering context actually doesn't know anything about that. For that, you have to jump into the related object of the canvas. But yeah, it doesn't. So it does not know about the height and width, and therefore it also does not know about its center. Meanwhile, the canvas itself is pretty dumb and doesn't know about its own center point either. You are given the height and width, and from that you are to make do. Plotting on a coordinate plane. I mean, we kind of are. We kind of are plotting on a coordinate plane, but it's one we have to manage ourselves to some degree. What you can do in on the JavaScript canvas is, well, let me start by saying that, 0, 0 is the top left, which that sets the scene for things being a little bit unusual, and when you try and translate it to like normal coordinate systems that you might think about in like graphing utilities. So you can move the origin. You can tell it, hey, translate this canvas's origin somewhere different. You're allowed to do that. I never really bothered doing that. I instead generally just do mapping functions of some kind and just say, hey, just offload all that. But you can change the center point and the scale. You can change the scale. I don't know if that I don't know if there's a cost associated with that, like an actual CPU cost. That's another thing about doing a Canvas project in JavaScript. All of the rendering is not done by your video card. It is actually entirely loaded onto the CPU, which means you have to be a little bit careful with how much stuff you try and render, because you're not throwing polygons at a device that is built to handle millions of polygons. You're actually throwing slow arithmetic at the CPU, which is also trying to do everything else. And that's because we're doing a 2D rendering context. There are other types of rendering context you can do, like I believe OpenGL is supported or something very similar to it. So you can do like full-on 3D graphics on a canvas, but it looks very different. Actually, I do have something I did with that somewhere. Yeah, a train generator. I think this was done with a library called Three.js, like THREE.js, which yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember the deal with it. Oh yeah, my first stab at Three.js. It does something with OpenGL, but yeah, you can do this level of stuff with on a canvas, but you don't really want to do that on your own. You don't want to do that level of stuff on your own. Also, it really slows down when I start to zoom out. But yeah, all this is not impossible, but pretty much impossible with the 2D rendering context. But like lighting calculations and all this stuff, like you don't have to worry about that with actual 3D libraries. You just tell it the coordinates of stuff and then deal with the agonizing pain of trying to figure out how to do things in the right way that feels very dated. Honestly, it feels like any kind of 3D game development that you plan on doing, you want to do through some kind of library or maybe even a full-on engine, because it is just not worth doing on your own. Like, look at this. I'm getting like 16 frames per second apparently, and there's not a lot of polygons on screen. If I zoom, I don't know if it's trying to render everything at once, maybe. I mean, that slows it down even further. But yeah, let's just close that before my computer dies. That's why I kind of like to do 2D games a little bit more, is I kind of like dealing with the coordinate systems and like these little mapping functions. I like that part. 3D can be fun, but I wanna know the math behind it, and I was never great at matrix algebra, which you have to do if you're gonna actually get into 3D, like the nitty-gritty of 3D coordinate systems. Oh my gosh, it's a lot of matrices. It's like 90% matrices under the hood. I don't remember how to calculate a determinant. Actually, I probably could, but that's besides the point. It would be slow and agonizing for everyone that had to watch that. Hey, Chad doing some determinants right now. Shout out to determinants. Don't shout out to determinants. All right, we have zoom logic. It works. We have camera logic that can focus in on a single sprite now. Where do we go from here? Oh yeah, zooming. I want to do some smooth zooms. Oh, also, how does it look if I change the zoom to a not super pretty number, like 0.75? Oops. I set the entire renderer to the number 0.75. You know what, that doesn't look too bad, actually. Cross products of 3D vectors, heck yes. to avoid bonus algebra. I was okay with calculus. Calculus was pretty intuitive to me, for the most part. Abstract algebra is where I lost it. It's like, I felt like I was pretty good at math until it got up to abstract algebra. And to a certain degree, partial derivatives were a little bit weird to me and unintuitive. Oh gosh. Bringing me back to all this like college nightmare math that I was like, I don't really understand Fourier transformations. I don't really feel like I want to understand Fourier transformations, but I'm all over the trig. Let's go back to trigonometry. That was fun. Let's have a target zoom. And we're gonna have a update function for our, now we're gonna have an update function for our camera, which we are gonna call once per frame during the draw cycle. Oh, proofs. Proofs were a little bit, I don't know. I just didn't literally like writing a lot of things in class in high school. And so when we got to proofs, it's like math was my safe haven where I could finish homework with the minimum amount of actual graphite to paper until we got to proofs where it's like, oh great, now I gotta write words, and I hated writing words. I don't know what the deal was in my brain, but it did not like writing down words. I liked the concept of geometric proof kind of stuff, like finding the similar angles, like, oh, that, okay, so that one's that. Oh, that means these are the same, and that means that these must be the same. Aha! I loved the puzzle aspect of it. I did not like the, okay, now that you figured it out, now write everything step by step in nitty-gritty detail. Wasn't a fan of that. So let's see, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do a linear, or I guess more of an exponential slide to move zoom towards target zoom. Essays in math, oh no. On how to do a problem. Oh, I did take a very wordy math class in college that was probably one of my favorites. History of mathematics. Fascinating stuff, really. Let's see here. We want to figure out how far do we have to go to get to target zoom. So we want target zoom minus this dot zoom. So if target zoom is 2 and zoom is 1.5, then that'll leave us with, yeah, that'll leave us with 0.5. We're gonna take that distance and we're gonna multiply it by 0.05. And then we're going to increase the zoom by this little scaling block here. So now, if I take renderer.target zoom and I say, move that to 1. Oh, did you see that? Let's zoom in again. Oh, that's not bad. Zoom way out. Ooh. Ah. Zoom in. Ooh. Ah. Zoom way out. Whoa. Zoom way in. Whoa. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's smooth. And you'll notice that the farther it has to go, the more abrupt it's gonna feel. And I think that's fine. So here's what's really cool about this, and this is what's gonna make this super nice, maybe. Now I'm not sure. Do we ever, okay, here's what I'm thinking. You get to like a boss fight or a wider open area. Oh no, background art makes it perfect because what I'm feeling there is it gives it that like parallax effect. It's like, hey, that moon crater is like in the distance, but the camera is moving around closer to the player while the moon background is like way back here, the player is like here, and then the camera is like doing this number here. So the background stays pretty well centered. I think that looks fine. eventually we'll replace these like platform lines with, I don't know, like metal girders or something, so it's apparent that we're not actually jumping around on platforms that are made of the moon rock or something. We'll probably do something like that, I don't know. All right, but what we can do is when you get into like a larger area, like maybe we'll divide up the game world into what is effectively rooms, and when you enter a large room, the camera pans outwards so you can see more of the enemies around you. And then when you get into closer quarters, it can zoom in to be a target zoom of like 1. 1 feels like it shouldn't get any closer than 1, as is what I'm feeling, because you don't have too much time to react to see things around you when suddenly, bam, they're right in your face. So I kind of feel like filling these in. Oh yeah, that's gonna do that. So when we do circle with that's the sprite handler. When we do the draw, instead of making that the stroke style, let's make that the fill style. Yeah, I feel like that's all right. Oh, you know what we could do? We could also do a stroke style of black. And then when we do the render, we could do a stroke and a fill. Oh, look at this. Yeah, that's not bad. Line's a little bit thick, it seems. Let's bring that down to 1/4 of that. That's clean. Maybe a little too clean. Yeah, that's all right. Actually, I kind of like the black better for that. Yeah. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Oh. He's a moon rover that is, in fact, an actual moon rover. I could get behind that. These pellets look very small now, because most of it is being taken over by the stroke width of the circle around that cyan, which is fine for now. Oh, all right, this is good. This is good. Yeah. You can barely see the bullets at an 0.5 zoom, though. All right. So at first I was thinking what we need is that the zoom, like, you get into a big fight room that's like, let's say it's 2x2 of this, right? So it's like from here to down here. And as soon as you enter and the door locks behind you, the camera goes into fixed mode where it does not follow you and it's sort of locked to the edges of the room. I was like, visually that would be pretty cool, and it would show you immediately, like when the camera is rested away, it says, hey, boom, look at this. You are now in this zone in a fight. I liked that until I thought about how that affects the control of the game, which is the whole point of the game control is like, I want to click and know exactly where I'm going to go. And if suddenly I'm all over the place, it's like, okay, now I have to actually follow with my mouse. Like the player is over here, now I got to click over here to go right. And now the player is over here, but oh, now if I want to go left, I actually need to click over here instead of over here. It gets tricky to deal with, I think. I don't like it. Not as much of a fan. Jetpack. Jetpack is still fun. So yeah, that's my reasoning on not liking the idea of the camera lock. But I still like the idea of zooming out in a larger area to give the player a little bit more visibility of what's going on. I still think that's worth doing. Also, well, I'm okay with it for now, but I feel like the drawing should be in... I want the player to be drawn on top of everything. Like, the player should be drawn last or something. I don't know. But I do like that the zooming is smooth, and so I kind of want to make that happen at some points in the game. The zooming out, zooming in kind of stuff. All right, where do we go from here? Do we start getting into, like, traversable levels? And if so, we got a lot of decisions to suddenly make. Because then we suddenly need to figure out things like, you know, are these levels going to be pre-baked? Are they going to be procedurally generated? I like procedurally generated because I don't like the idea of having to build like a dozen levels on my own. Or building a level editor. That would also be annoying. It's like this little fountain effect of the jetpack if you fire it upwards. Just a bunch of marbles coming out everywhere. No damage, just marbles. Just marbles. Losing my marbles. Let's see, and then what else? If we do... So, current thought is a point A to point B level structure. Vaguely procedural generated. Not going well so far. I mean, I don't think that's too bad. The art can be pure... Oh, gosh, I just thought about zooming in on PNGs is going to be a weird thing. We're going to have to decide on a system to handle that. I'm trying to push back actually throwing image files into the game. I'm trying to push that back as far as possible because I don't want to think about managing that yet. So let's see here. Level structure is you start somewhere, you proceed through a series of small procedurally generated areas. We have code that can manage a few different types of rooms. They're kind of rooms, but they're kind of just open areas with platforms. Maximum zoom. Depending on what kind of area you're in, the camera will zoom in or out. Slightly, maybe. Maybe the background phases between different things to indicate different sorts of rooms. It could be moon base style, where there's like some interior areas, some exterior areas. Types of enemies encountered could be different per room. But the rooms are ultimately all a single connected level. But we just generate chunks at a time. At the end of each chunk, maybe there's a big fight room. Like, first you go through some lighter enemies sparsed through randomly, where you can engage or you cannot engage. And then you enter a fight room. You're locked in. All enemies outside of that area are deleted. And then it spawns some enemies inside the room. I don't want to have to deal with things chasing you in. We're deleting all the enemies when it's fight time. You get to the room, you're safe. You're safe from the outside enemies, and you just have to fight the harder inside enemies. You're locked in, you fight through it, you get a big chunk of treasure for beating the enemies, and then your progress is saved. Hey, Mario Maker fan. How you doing tonight? Good to hear. Hey, we got that Mario Maker tournament coming up pretty soon. I think it's less than a week away. Hope you get to catch some of that. It's gonna be pretty exciting. If the stars align, me and Germdove will be facing off pretty soon. Speed Gaming, they're hosting Speed Gaming Live, which is their little yearly marathon, and part of that is they're doing a Mario Maker tournament. May need a better artist for the dog. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know if the bracket is finalized yet. Here's the link. Currently, the bracket setup is saying that I'm going to be facing off against Zero Planes first, which I fought him a lot back when Speed Gaming was doing weekly Mario Maker races. Main character probably needs better art. We'll see what we can put together. Art will not be needed for a long time, for whatever that's worth. Typically, I would beat Zero Planes. There was like one time where Zero Planes managed to beat me. Let's see. I think I've got like a spreadsheet of every race that I entered into. So let's see. Zero Planes versus Dobbs. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. How many times did we actually face off against each other? Not a lot. Okay. He beat me, I beat him. I beat him, I beat him. I beat him, I beat him. I barely beat him. I beat him by a lot. What's the game link? Oh, you know what? We haven't actually linked. You know what? I should publish what we've got so far. Let's throw that out there. Let's do our cache breaking here. Our poor man's cache breaker. So this is adding camera movement and zooming. Publish that. Moon Rover. All right, it's gonna take a second before the new version gets out, but this is the link to the game. Took a break from Mario Maker 2, getting kind of bored of it. That is fair. That is fair. I mean, even though you are a Mario Maker fan, everyone has their limits. Okay, so yeah. Me and Zero Planes faced off 8 times. I beat him 7 of those times. But here's the thing. The grading scale is changed for this tournament from what I'm used to in the weeklies. And he typically has a very good endless score. Well, maybe not super good, but better than I had, I think. 7.2. Yeah. He typically had me beat by about half a level in the endless run. And there a lot of points are on the line for the endless portion, which is my weak part. My strong suit is the optimization and blind race. So we'll see what we can do. Making a couple of music levels. Want You Gone remake and a Kazatsuki kick. Nice. An SM64 music level. Excellent. Yeah, I only did the one music level ever with the Mario 64 credits theme. And it was only a small snippet of it for like that Kaizo section at the very end of the world. For the super world. See, and Germdove is going to be maybe facing off against some guy named Too Good, who I'm not familiar with. Yeah, out of the 8 entrants, I know 6 of them. Or at least have faced against them at least. But we'll see. Well, I'll make sure to let everybody know when those races are coming up. Okay. Let's break out paint. At this point, we might just be doing some brainstorming, and that's about it. So my idea is that the levels can be generating, like... It'll generate sections of a level. So to begin with, it'll generate a starting section, a corridor, and a fight room. All right? And the idea is that once you... Let's see here. How are we going to do this? Do I want to make it so that... I want you to always move forward. I don't want you to ever go backwards. So the idea is that once you enter an area... once you enter an area, does your progress save there? I think also some kind of midway points occasionally would be handy. Okay, no. All right, so the idea is that you get into a room and it generates the next room. I guess is the idea. We'll alternate between corridors and rooms. But maybe each thing will be called a room internally. But like, I'm thinking no backtracking, no branching paths of any sort. It's always this kind of general layout, maybe. Big corridor, you know, corridors can be big, small, in between. You can have fight rooms. You can have shop rooms. You can have safe rooms, maybe. It's just like treasure and a save point kind of stuff. And then you can have like a boss room. Actually, this feels like this, you know, for the example, this looks a lot more like a boss room than anything else. Okay. And then a start room. Okay, so if we're doing something like this, I feel like I want to generate all of this stuff up front, but not have it all running at once. The way that the, ooh, trap rooms. Let's keep that idea in mind. I don't know what a trap looks like in this game exactly. I wonder if a trap is basically a certain type of enemy that has some kind of gimmick to it. You know? And I think we're all on the same page that we don't want to have exploration in this game. Like, as fun as the movement in this feels, I feel like this game needs to just, like, flow. Like, you're constantly moving forward to the next area. You're not like worried, oh crap, did I miss something back there? I should go back and look. You know, I should go back through this room that I just cleared of enemies. I should go back through this empty hallway and make sure I didn't miss a little hidden secret. Yeah, spikes, auto-fire arrows, which ultimately can be just a different type of enemy sprite. So it's a fight in its own special way. But I think the main flow of the game is we generate a level like this. But we can't have this entire thing in memory at once. Merry-go-round. Oh gosh, I hate that song. It's not pleasant to listen to. When I say we can't have it in memory, I mean in our array of borders and stuff, where we're keeping track of the walls, we're having to iterate over every wall for every sprite. So if we had, let's say, player plus enemy plus bullets, let's say there's 50 of those alive at any given time, which is not out of the question. Let's say 100 even. I think 100's probably conceivable. How many walls do we have in a bare bones room? We've got 4 walls. That's 400 checks we have to do to see, like, did this enemy hit this wall? Did this enemy hit that wall? Did this enemy hit that wall? Did this enemy hit that wall? Okay, nope, moving on. Did this enemy hit this wall, this wall, this wall, this wall? It's a very quick check, but it does add up. Even if we add some optimizations, we would like to cut down on the number of checks we have to make. So, I think enemies will never leave their room. Let's start with that. Enemies will never leave the room they belong to. If an enemy is in this corridor, it will not be able to get into the fight room. So a room will have a predefined set of walls and a non-overlapping set of borders. So if I say that this corridor extends this far right, that means the next room up will not extend any further left than that coordinate. I think that's a reasonable way to do that. Now, what does this mean? That means that once the player enters the next room, we can completely delete everything from the previous room. All of those sprites, all of the bullets that we're firing around, all of the walls, we can just chuck those out into the garbage collector and let it handle it. So every time you move forward, we just take these items and just throw them out of the current game logic. We can still hold on to them for the sake of, hey, I need to restart this area because I died. You know, we're not going to regenerate the whole map every time you die. But we don't want to be running our loop on the boss room when we are miles away from it. So I want to generate these rooms, but not hold them in our game logic until it's appropriate. So we're only going to hold the walls and enemies that are currently of importance. Now, with some clever visual trickery, we can make this smooth and seamless. Hopefully. Player sprite comes into contact with it. Instead of taking damage, maybe it moves them backwards a set distance. Yeah, that would be an interesting enemy concept even. Like one that doesn't damage you directly, but can cause you to take damage just by like pushing you around a lot. Bumpers, effectively. Bumpers or warps. All right, so the player is in the start zone. Weeping Angel, oh gosh. Send you back in time. Have I done that yet? I have not done that yet. That's actually not too hard to do. You know what? Let's actually get some more features in tonight. Did I do any key binding stuff? Do I have any keyboard handling? Or is it all... Yeah, it's all mouse handling, isn't it? Yeah, I don't have any key up, key down stuff yet. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind having some features that are basically just for desktop users. And this is a pretty easy thing to add, I think. Mouse, keyboard, handler. Let's see here. So we want to have a init key handlers. So we're going to have a key down event. And that's pretty much it. So for now, I'm just going to do this much, which is basically just like, hey, tell me... Oh, wait, we need to actually initialize this. Okay, just show me the event. Show me the event? No? I could have sworn it was key down. Hold on, hold that thought. Let me pull up my main stuff here. Let's see, what is this one? Keyboard handler. Oh, is it document on key down and on key up? I'll try that. Oh, that's what it is. That's why it wasn't working. Interesting. All right, so we are interested in .key, which is going to be a string. No, a number. No, a string. 1, 2, 3. So it's basically going to be equal to whatever I enter. So weapon handler. Select weapon by index. If I select a weapon that's out of index, okay, then we're fine. Perfect. So remember, 0 is the first weapon, which is weird. Let key equal... All right, so I'm assuming key text, just for clarity. This is going to be a string representing which key I press. So it could be the word enter, it could be the text 1, it could be the text A, it could be the text page up, you know, so be ready for that. Justify the movement methodology with design choices. The dog is in a capsule. The dog is pretty much in a Pokeball. That's the idea. That's what's going on here. So let's see here. If 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I'm basically saying if the user hit one of the numeric numbers, let's say 1 to 9 only, Then we can get our key number, which is basically e.key converted to a number. This is a weird shortcut. You can use the, this is a unary operator plus, which tries to coerce the value into a number. So we're getting the text string of numeral 1, but by preceding it with a plus, JavaScript tries to convert that string into a numeric value. So it recognizes that the text 1 is roughly equivalent to the number 1. It's weird that those are distinct if you're not a programmer. If you are a programmer, you understand the struggle, hopefully, of keeping your types straight in a very loosely typed language like JavaScript. So from there, we can call our weapon handler dot select weapon by index and give it key number -1 because weapon number 1 is index number 0. And that should do it. So let's try this. 1 shotgun, 2 jetpack, 1 shotgun, 1 shotgun, 1 shotgun, no 1 shotgun. No 1 shotgun. Hey McRiot. How you doing, man? the new sus emote. I'm digging it. Oh, 1 is not coming in. Why is 1 not coming in? Ooh, interesting. Let's try this. Oh, I get it. I know what I did wrong. Duh. All right, we're good now. 1 shotgun, 2 jetpack, 1 shotgun, 2 jetpack. There you go. Just for you, Mario Maker fan. I'll check that change in. Oh, I do like it. Wait, is this a full new set here? Oh, you got rid of your normal emotes completely, didn't you? Oh, you got the whole new set here. The consistent branding. GG had to go? Oh no. What happened? Was it just a decision on which one had to be? Oh, you needed, gotcha, for the slots. No, that's fair. Sometimes you have to make that call, and it can be tough, but you know, it's for bigger and better things. All right, let's check that change in. Keybind, weapon switch. Boom. It's just never enough emote slots, are there? You just gotta bring the GG as a tier 3. Oh wait, that is the tier 3. Don't forget the bit emotes. You can use your bit emotes. I don't know how many bit emotes slots there are, but they are viable for things that, you know, just so you can have them. No one else gets them, but it's your own personal emotes. I don't know what the cheapest one is if you actually did want people to be able to use it. Actually, now I'm vaguely interested. Let's see here. Emotes. Nope, wrong. It's not under emotes, of course. Oh, there we go. 1,000 bits badge. You can, yeah. Oh wait, no, it's locked. Wait, what does that mean? No, it's unlocked. Okay, we're good. Yeah, I set the wheel in as a bit emote because I just needed to have, because I didn't have the slots for it. But I was like, I don't want anybody to actually use the wheel as an emote, so I'm just gonna throw it in as a $100 emote. Twitch was easier going. Yeah, seriously. I mean, I get the idea. It's the carrot on the stick. They're like, huh? You bring us a little bit more money, and maybe we will let you add an image into a chat program. It's like, yeah, all right, I get it. Okay, it looks okay. I see. It's like the more bits you have, the more bit emotes you unlock. 5 million bit emote. Oh, I cannot imagine why anyone would do that. That's what, 50 grand? For a JPEG? Sorry, PNG. Ugh. I don't get people. Just $100? Just a mere 12 hours at McDonald's. I cannot go back to fast food work. That was a nightmare. Fast food workers do not get paid enough to deal with the general public. What an absolute nightmare it is. But there you go, Mario Maker fan. Weapon switching is now available. If you press 1, you get shotgun. You press 2, you get jetpack. No more having to scroll up and down for that. Now you can farm this red circle all you want. Did you do your time day? It's a good one. It's a good one. Did you do the art yourself on these? Retail, you know what? Yeah. Retail is basically the same thing on a slightly slower time scale, but not by much. Catering adjacent. Yeah. Ugh. Flashbacks. All right, what were we planning out? We're probably not going to program any of this tonight, but it's good to have a plan of what to do next week. Because next week we're doing a full length, I hope. Photoshop with shapes. Hey man, don't doubt the Photoshops. You know what? I got really into Photoshop back in like 2006, 2007. I needed it for actually it was before that. 2005, sophomore year at college, I was actually in an architecture program, and one of the required pieces of software was Photoshop CS2, which I still use to this day. It no longer requires a purchased license. They retired the registration service, so now they just give you the unlock key and say, here you go, have fun with Photoshop CS2 if you can still install it somehow. They don't make it easy to get a hold of the download for, but it's available. And I had a blast with that. I made some fun stuff. Do I dare even try and find some of my old... Let's see. No. Yeah, it's worse than I thought. It all sucks. Actually, that's not too bad. Yeah, it's just geometry, basically. Portable exe file. That is pretty nice. Mine is actually installed, but I use it for a lot of stuff still. I got I got really good with the CS2 shortcuts, and now I can't switch over to anything else. It's all so ingrained. It's like I just know. It's like, okay, yeah, M, Shift M, Alt Shift K. I don't even know what that does, but all these like weird 4-part shortcuts. It's like somehow I've used them enough that I actually remember them all. It was good. It was fun stuff playing around with Photoshop. It was a powerful program. I don't like the cloud idea. I want to own the software. I don't want to have to keep owning the software. Other weapons is a reward for beating a boss, like rapid fire weapon or laser. Ooh, laser as a non-momentum weapon. I like that idea of some weapons having no momentum. Let's see. So let's play out this idea of the game loop here. So you have, actually, you know what? I should be using the fill tool so that it can look really ugly around these letters. No, we'll stick with this. All right. So your idea is you have your basic room types of a corridor room having multiple platforms, an obvious direction of where you're going, and randomly sprinkled enemies in different clusters. Refuse to buy anything that is subscription cloud. Yeah. I have a sinking feeling that the whole rocket jumping and sticky bomb jumping. Yes, and we need the Scottish resistance. I have a feeling that like a lot of things are pushing for subscription because that's the only way that they can really guarantee revenue. So it's going to be a popular thing for a long time to come for some of the big players like Adobe. Plus, a lot of their big clients are businesses which do not care about like just plunking down money because they were going to buy the latest stuff every time it comes out anyway. So they don't mind the whole like, yeah, we're just going to always be subscribed to this as a service. Okay. So we're gonna have corridor rooms, which are free movement. Yeah, open source is some good stuff. For more reasons than one. Like the free open source is good, but the fact that like open source in general exists is a blessing for everyone. All right. This is not like to scale or anything. This is just kind of get a general idea here. But the idea is that a single level looks something like this. A series of corridors. You get through corridors. They're, you know, got platforms and enemies and I don't know, looks something like this. I don't know, does that work? Like with our momentum based stuff, if you could just build up momentum, you could just like keep clicking left and then just fly through. What do you mean? Oh no, this is still Moon Rover, our shooter, our little platform based shooter game. Heavily momentum based. We're about to start branching out into planning on like how do we go from this little boxed in demo to like full on levels. Max ammo cap before having to reload. Not being able to reload midair. I'm on the fence about that. I like the idea of like pulling off cool combos and like not having to reload. Capture the flag mode is what you need. Now we're talking. I don't think it'll be multiplayer. I don't want to do anything where I have to actually maintain a server. Infinite bullets are fun. I don't know about max ammo being a thing, because that creates the ability to run out of ammo and having to like farm up ammunition. Okay, consider. We're in one of these orange rooms. We're getting from the start to the next fight. Do I stop to fight anything along the way? And if so, why? I guess enemies give you money, and more money means better weapons later. How do we balance that? Okay, I get you, Mario Maker fan. Okay, I'm liking that a little bit more. Number of shots per landing, effectively. Okay, I get you. So like with shotgun, or with weapon number 1, you can get 10 shots before you have to land. And then weapon number 2 is much more powerful, but you only get 3 shots before you have to switch out to something different. Yeah, that could work. Yes. Actually, that works really well for the idea of, like, making the player more apt to switch out their weapons instead of using one weapon all the time. Like, you get a powerful weapon, but now you have to decide, like, well, am I going to use this shot to get some mobility, to get closer up to this thing, or am I going to just chip away at it from a distance? I know, I'll switch to my weaker, more mobility-friendly weapon to get into position, and then switch out to the big gun to, like, point-blank this thing. I like that. That might be what we do on that. Okay. So, the idea is that a general level layout, you have these platformed areas, enemies around, maybe more enemies on the ground, so you're encouraged to actually land on the platforms instead of just like blindly blasting your way forward. You're encouraged to kind of do some platforming and avoid the ground because it's more dangerous. We can just basically enforce that by some clever enemy design. Then you have some kind of fight room, which just looks like a sort of arena, like a little battlefield of sorts. Or big battlefield, or whatever. Maybe with even some environmental hazards could be a thing. Platform level where it hands you a gun but no jetpack, and you have to reach the end using only weapon. Yeah, we could have some like challenge run kind of stuff. So yeah, then we do. There we go. You fight in an area where you get mobbed by like a single wave of a lot of different enemies. Again, vaguely randomly distributed, but a little bit more carefully picked out and balanced for a fight room. Maybe even do these rooms in waves. Wave 1, wave 2. Okay, now you can move on to the next area. Occasionally you will encounter a shop of some kind. Maybe this happens between levels instead? I don't know. But I feel like it would be handy to happen mid-level. And this is where you exchange your resources, your loot, for more powerful weapons, different weapons, more weapons, and perhaps, crucially, weapon upgrades. Played on PC once. A game reminds me of Open Arc. Oh, I mean, I can immediately see some similarities. Yeah. Also, man, SourceForge. Been a while since I've seen this. Oh, look at those. Look at those UI gradients. Look at that. Oh, that is some old style 90s UI. It was a blast. Nice. Yeah, a lot of those old games were really great to play. Okay, now this is something I like. Downward rooms create a very interesting sort of gameplay, because now you actually have to aim for the gaps to travel forward. You can't just blindly blast your way to the right. You actually have to seek out the gaps that allow you to proceed. And firing downward will push you back towards the start, up towards the beginning of the area. So this is actually downward corridors could be very interesting. Hey, Tank, how you doing, man? We're doing some planning for next week. I think we're done programming, but we're gonna kind of make some plans on where to go from here. Doing all right? Nice. You can't escape, Day. Yeah, I really like this downward. Oh yeah, this is really good. To some extent, upward is pretty nice as well, because it's hard to retreat from enemies in your way. And also, you can't blindly just fly forward because you have less reaction time. You're probably going to run into something. Left and right are kind of the mindless directions. Yeah, individual weapon ideas are nice to have, and I'm going to keep those in the rewards queue so I can refer back to those for when we need to actually start building lots of different types of weapons. When we need to have lots of types of content, it'll be nice to have the queue to rely on. All right, so next type of room I'm thinking a safe room where you actually get a chance to save the game, for one thing. I don't know how often your progress will be saved. Like if we do these kind of like multi-room levels, you probably want to save after each large room, like after you start a corridor. Like as soon as you start a corridor, that's where you respawn. Randomized boss out of so many. Maybe. It depends on I guess first off on what the bosses look like. Because right now I have no idea. Plus, because I really, really want to keep this dead simple collision detection engine going, the boss would have to be made of smaller hitboxes if we do a big boss. Which is not out of the question to have like a multi-segmented boss. Moldorm. We basically want to have Moldorm. Every boss is going to be a giant centipede monster of some kind. You can't go wrong with the old SNES classic of big face in the background and big hands that punch. It's a staple. I mean, it doesn't really work in space as much unless you make it a robot. Am I right? Giant robot head. Giant circular robot head with giant circular robot fists that shoot circular laser beams. Formed of moon rocks. Ah, now you're thinking. All right. So I think this is the general idea is level generation is going to be random. When you start the game, when you start the level, the entire level is generated, but loaded into the game's active set of platforms, one room at a time, not all at once. So we want to be careful about that for performance reasons. So when you leave a room, we basically just chuck the rest of it out the door and we don't use it ever again. Semi-randomly, it's going to consist of, well, it's always going to start with a start room, And then we're going to alternate between fights, shops, fights, safe room. Maybe it's always these sets of placeholder rooms and then a randomized corridor between each. Some new material. Oh boy. Oh gosh. He's beautiful. And we'll put him in the Pokeball. Yeah, maybe there's always 4 corridors, 2 fight rooms, and 1 shop halfway through the level. And then basically a heal up before the boss room. And then corridors. Maybe the directions are randomized? You're gonna try making some art for this? Oh no. That's submitting your idea. You know what? I'm gonna reject that one. Oh gosh, wait, did I max that? Oh, there we go, there's pages. There you go. I'm gonna give you those points back. Those 10 points. Your 10 points have been refunded. Oh, obviously. So let's see. In the interest of optimization, every platform is perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical. There's no slopes in this game. We'll save that for Moon Rover 2. So the big things we want to focus on is having... I feel like the fight rooms we might want to have... I don't know if we want those to be randomly generated, like, platform-wise. The Yeetening. Or if those are set platforms. Like, I could see us having, like, a basic room always looking the same, of basically being some number of centered platforms and some number of side platforms at varying heights. Like, that could be a valid room or something. So ultimately, like, it picks, random heights, but sticks to a 3-column layout for platforms. And then just kind of randomly assigns some different distances between platforms vertically and offsets the ones between columns or something. And that's the end of randomization for the room layout for a fight. But then the enemy spawns could be set as like, okay, they always come out of, a set of like 20 locations around the border, but maybe in like a random order. And you never know which one they're going to come out of. We're going to need some kind of code to build these corridor rooms, which is going to be similarly like, okay, I need some random platforms that are traversable, but interesting. And I need to be able to do it for a random height or width. And I think we want to settle on it's going to be either horizontal or vertical. There's not going to be weird square corridors. I think it needs to be very clear that you're going a set direction. Maybe even have decorative elements in the level pointing you like, hey, keep moving that way. Shop, I think initially that's going to be empty. We're not going to deal with that logic for a bit. Ooh, possible idea. Do we want the level to actually be a seamless jump, or like do you warp between these corridors to the fight rooms? Probably seamless, right? Probably seamless. But maybe like a big obvious door, like a threshold that you are passing over. Make it really obvious that like, hey, you just jumped into the next region. So we need code for generating these corridors, generating these fight rooms, sprinkling each with enemies, and then we also need the final code, which handles like the whole shebang of like, okay, how do I lay out this entire level? You know, okay, first I move right, down, left, boss, or right, down, left, down, boss. You know, what's my direction? And honestly, with that, I don't think that's going to be as difficult as I was initially making it out to be. If we're sticking with pretty small sets of stuff and we never go up, then it basically boils down to at any given junction, like when I hit this fight room, I can only pick that the next room is to the right or down. And after going down, I can choose left, right, or down. If I choose left or right, then I'm back in the same situation as I was with start of I either keep moving that direction or I go down. As long as I never have to go up, then that becomes pretty trivial. And especially if I'm only good... I want to be able to do it for a variable number of rooms. Like if I wanted to have like 18 corridors, I want that to be possible to generate, but we're probably not going to do that in practice. But I want the code to be robust enough to do that. And I don't think we want to go down and then back up. Mostly because I think downward rooms are a lot more interesting in this system than upward rooms. Makes it a lot more interesting to fight your way down than it is to fight your way up. Mostly because of the one-way platforms. With going upward, it's like every time I move up, it's like all right, I've reached a new point where I can't fall back down. That gets kind of easy. I mean, it makes it hard to retreat, but I think in this game you're typically not going to be retreating. Whereas moving down is very interesting because I have to carefully navigate my way down as I'm fighting. And if I fire my weapon downward, I have to be careful that I don't fire so many times in succession that I'm pushing myself back up a few levels. I'm gonna save this. We're not gonna forget this stuff. This is good info. So we want to make sure that's saved so we don't forget it. Yeah. So that's going to be a level. That's a level structure. Maybe. I'm still on the fence on the shop. I'm wondering if the shop needs to be after the boss. Like you finish the level and now you get to upgrade and spend your hard-earned cash before the second level. That might be what we do. And maybe this gets replaced by a little recovery station similar to this one where it's like, okay, hey, you're halfway there. Top off your health and move on, and maybe get some free loot and keep going, and get a little bit of like flavor text or something, you know, like a little side character, like a little signpost sort of thing, gives you some lore in a cheeky manner, you know, like welcome to the moon. That's it. That's all I got right now. Boss, probably going to do multi-segment stuff, centipedes, giant robots that are in the background, that kind of stuff. I want to see if there's a way that we can kind of randomly generate a boss monster out of multiple segments. That would be really cool if we could build an enemy out of smaller enemies and do it in such a way that the individual segments are independent and allow for a great deal of variety. I'm not just talking like, oh, the last one had flamethrower hands, but this one has laser gun hands. I'm talking about like, it's got a head that's connected to some number of segments, that's connected to some joints, that's connected to some other joints. And it kind of builds this, let's assume symmetric, but always different creature in every level. And we can sliding scale modify the difficulty by changing which types of segments can randomly be attached. Like, flamethrowers are high damage but close range, so they're kind of on the easier scale. But if you're rolling up a harder boss, you're going to see less flamethrowers and you're going to see more rocket launchers that have homing rockets and enemy spawns and all this other stuff. I think that would be fantastic for this. I'm so into procedural content. I think the idea of a procedurally generated boss fight is something that could be really interesting. And that's all I've got to say about that. Anyway, I want to go hang out with Turtle and watch him play some Left 4 Dead. I don't know about you guys. This is some really fun stuff to go off of. So that's a level. That's what a level is going to look like. And I think next week we're gonna learn how to do a level. We're gonna make a level happen. We're gonna go from this to an actual level process, like a single level you can do start to finish. All right, schedule. Sometime over the next couple days, I'll do probably another FTL stream. Again, we're probably going to try and keep it a little bit on the shorter side because I'm still not 100% on energy and I get tired. Sunday, Mario Maker. And then schedule's probably going to get thrown off a little bit for the Mario Maker tournament that's going on. So just keep that in mind. Stay tuned. Thanks for hanging out, guys. It's been fun. Hope you've been enjoying. Visually, this doesn't look very different from what we started with today. That's shorter streams, though, so that's what you get. Next time, though, things are going to we're going to have a big chunk of content. So be prepared. Also, probably music requests will be available. Good. Oh. Tank sneaking in with a 2-month subscription. Thanks, Tank. I'd keep talking to you, but the timer's about to go and we're going to just be Okay, bye. I guess we're gone now. If you're watching the VOD, Tank, thank you.